A North Carolina landlord suffered thousands of dollars worth of damages after their tenant intentionally unscrewed their toilet and flooded their unit 1 week into the lease, then disappeared without a trace, leaving thousands of dollars worth of damage. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. So I have an interesting story for you today, and it's coming out of North Carolina. It has to do with one of those nightmare tenants. Now, I haven't done a nightmare tenant story in a while, and this is a good one, okay? I hate reading things like this happening to good landlords, but cautionary tale, it reminds us every time, this is the most important thing, right? Proper tenant screening, period, okay? Nothing is more important than proper tenant screening. Now, I'm not saying that this landlord didn't do that, but this is one of the very few things that we have complete control over that can help make sure that we don't end up being placed in a similar situation as this. So in this story, a tenant moved into the property, was not happy or satisfied with the property, and decided to move out. But rather than just leaving, they decided, hey, we're going to show this landlord what we think of him by basically destroying the place. They destroyed the place by disconnecting the toilet, breaking some pipes, and then allowing the place to flood. Okay? Now, obviously, these tenants are garbage. They're complete garbage. And you know what? I hope that they catch up with them, sue the pants off of them for all these damages, because nobody should be treated like that. Nobody. If you don't like the place, move. Just leave. You don't have to destroy the place on your way out. What a joke. Anyway, I'm going to get straight into the story in just a minute. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So my first question is, have you ever had a tenant who, after moving in, wanted to move out almost immediately? Now, I have. Okay, so my property in Gretna, Nebraska, one of the very first tenants that I put into the property, they wanted to live in the area. The area is, very popular area within the Omaha area. But when they got to the property, it was a lot smaller than what they expected. It was an older home. It was not what they wanted. It was not up to their standards, and they complained a lot. And finally, I was just like, listen, if you want to go, you can go. Okay, this obviously isn't the place for you. Things aren't working out. I'm going to allow you to break your lease and move on, and I will look for another tenant. And they did. Okay, and I'm just curious if other landlords have ever gone through a situation like that. Rather than trying to force them to go through the lease and dealing with, just constant complaints and calls and for me to repair everything, I said, you know what, I'll find a different tenant who won't have all these issues. And it worked out in the end. But anyway, let me get into this article and tell you what it says. This article is coming from AOL.com, and it says, tenants allegedly intentionally flooded a landlord's home with toilet water after a rent dispute. Lawsuit. Let's get into it. North Carolina homeowner Hallie Morgan is sharing a landlord's worst nightmare becoming reality for her and her husband, Ainsley. In her lawsuit, Hallie alleges that her tenants, whom she names as Caitlin Poor and Kathleen Kennedy, flooded the two-story property a week into their year-long lease, then moved out with no notice as the home filled with water from intentionally damaged toilet pipes. She took to TikTok to share these claims in a nearly 7-minute video on Wednesday, February 19th. The Morgans filed a complaint on Friday, February 21st, with the Guilford County Superior Court, alleging breach of contract, intentional destruction of property, trespassing, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, all of that stuff except for the emotional distress, I agree with. As a landlord, get used to being emotionally distressed by tenants tearing your stuff up. But for all the property damage, that's what you deserve to be compensated for, okay? Now, let's talk about all the damages that are done, the breach of the contract, and you probably have a very good case there. Now, the worst part is for these people who did this to you, if this was intentional, then and you're able to prove it, well, you got all their contact info, you got all their information. It's not like they can just run away easily. In my case, I literally photocopy the people's driver's licenses, and they're basically I've got them. I've got them. They're not running away and escaping after they destroy my property, if they destroy my property. And, and I'm hoping this landlord in this story did the same. There's no word of mouth agreement with some person who you don't really know who they are or who they could possibly be. The filing demands that Poor and Kennedy cover the cost of repairing the damage, loss of rental income, and the Morgan's legal fees. Our home wasn't just a rental property. It was a place filled with memories where we brought our children home from the hospital and where we planned for our family's future, Hallie told People exclusively. This has been an incredibly difficult experience, but we are remaining strong and trusting that justice will be served. I'm in a very similar situation in that multiple of my rental properties are homes that I used to live in. Okay, I bought those homes for me to live in and then later turned them into rental properties. I have 2 houses like that here in Omaha. And you know what? It sucks when you think back of the memories that you experienced and then you see how these tenants treated your place. So I feel you. I feel exactly how you feel if my property was treated the same way. People has been unable to reach Poor and Kennedy, who have seemingly deleted their social media profiles. People reached out to their employers, Atrium Health and DHL Logistics. DHL shared a statement citing its employee code of conduct. Here is my only issue with this, right? So, landlord obviously wants their money back, does want to shame these people for destroying their property and all that, right? And was willing to do whatever in order to find these people and get them, right? But I do have issue with sending the press to their employers, okay? Like, keep it in the courts. That's the way I see it. Keep it in the courts. Let the full story come out. Let these people, let's say for some reason that this wasn't what we think it is. Okay. And meanwhile, you sent the press out to these people's employers and possibly got them fired from their jobs for it. I do kind of have an issue with that. Like, these people haven't been convicted or, proven guilty yet. Now, if you tell me after the civil case has already been won, and then, we expose these people and then they ended up losing their job because of whatever fraud or theft that they committed or property damage, then that's too bad. But until then, I feel like, sending the People magazine out to these people's employer or contacting their employer, that was a attempt to get them in trouble at work. And I just don't like those sort of things. I just don't. Okay. And to me, it's a step too far. Now, if it comes down to, hey, I am trying to have the police press charges against them for what I believe was a crime, that's fine. If it's, I am filing a civil lawsuit against them for what I believe to be a civil issue, that's fine as well. Okay? I just don't like all this other stuff. Like, I'm going to call up his ex-girlfriend, or no, his current girlfriend, and then try to get her to dump him. No, that has nothing to do with this situation. Besides, let's think about it here. These people owe you a lot of money. How are they going to pay you a lot of money if you get them fired from their job? Think about that for a second. You got the person fired from their job, and then you expect them to pay you a bunch of money? No. Let's go after them civilly, win the civil lawsuit, and then garnish their wages. Sounds like a much better idea to me. Anyway, let me see if this article has any good pictures of the damage. Yeah, they got a couple of pictures in here, and I'll throw it up on the screen just so you can see. And yeah, this is pretty major. I'm going to skip down a little bit in this article. It says, per the complaint, one of the neighbors allegedly told Hallie, Poor, and Kennedy seemingly moved out on Saturday morning with a number of individuals in what appeared to be a rushed manner. Hallie and Ainsley claimed they rushed over to their property and were faced with a shocking damage. As we're pulling up, there's water covering the parking lot. There's water on the outside of our house, water surrounding the property coming out of the side paneling. The fire alarm is going off, Hallie says. We open the door and there's water everywhere. The first and second level is completely covered with water, seeping through everything. Basically, the ceiling is caving in. According to the complaint, the local fire department arrived and informed the homeowners that the tenants allegedly unscrewed the toilet and intentionally damaged the pipes. We saw both of the pipes on both toilets were destroyed, adds Haley. They completely destroyed our home to the point that it is uninhabitable. And looking at the pictures, there's pretty much no way. I mean, unless it was, middle of the winter and the house was vacant, then the pipes burst, there's pretty much no way that this sort of thing could have happened unless it was intentionally done. And, hearing what the fire department was saying, this sounds like they were very easily figured out that it was intentionally done. So I think that criminal charges and a civil case against these people would have been sufficient. So let's see what happens in this case. I mean, I hope that I can find an update at some point in time. But what do you think of this whole situation? Put a comment in the comment section down below.